it's Naomi Bainbridge here from our Bolton campus. I'm one of the interns there, and I am super excited that today I get to do a bit of devotional with you, that I get to share a bit of my knowledge of what I've learned over reading this psalm. And I really hope and pray that in these next 21 days, or wherever this video lands in the 21 days, that God really speaks to you personally, that as a church we come together to build and serve God. And I pray that ultimately that from this that we're going to see so much fruit of people getting to know Jesus because of the seeds we've sown in these 21 days. So I'm praying that over you, I'm praying that over me and over the church. So yes, let's crack on into it. So I hope you're having a good day wherever you are, whether it's the morning, afternoon, evening, but yeah, let's crack on. So get your Bibles open. We're going to be reading from Psalm 63. I'll just move my Christmas chocolates out of the way. So Psalm 63 verse 1, it says, "You God are my God, earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you, my whole being longs for you, in a dry and parched land where there is no water." So I'm going to be talking to you today a bit about being in a bit of a desert, because this is where we find ourselves in this verse. This is where David is. It says in my Bible that Psalm 63 is a psalm of David when he was in the desert of Judah. And I think the first thing that we can pull out of this verse is the first line, which I find so powerful. It says, "You God are my God." And I think when you're in a place of a desert, in a place of wilderness, I think you can become so easily consumed with what you've not got, with your lack, with what you need, and you can become so consumed with your surroundings and your circumstance, when what David does here is the first thing that he does is acknowledge who God is. He says, "You God are my God," that you God, the God who breathed the stars into the sky, the God that is faithful, the God who is vast, the God who is so big, is my God. And I find that verse, that line, so powerful in itself, that this amazing, vast, powerful God is also ours, that we can talk to every day, who is our Father, our friend. And I really think that before we do any devotion, before we do any prayer, any fasting, that take some time out today just to spend 2 minutes just putting everything aside and just remembering who is God to you and who is God in this crazy messed up world. Let's just remember and take a second, take a step back from life and just think, wow, let's just remember the God we serve first and foremost, and then remember that it's also ours, which is amazing. So yeah, David was in the desert at this point in time when he was writing this psalm, and I personally believe that in a place of wilderness, when you feel like you're in a desert, I believe that's where God does the most in our lives. I believe that's where he builds our character, where he builds our faith, where he makes us more like him, where we can learn more about him. In a place of wilderness is where it has to come down to you and God, that you can't rely on circumstance or people. And even though it doesn't seem glamorous, it doesn't seem all dandy and nice, that actually that's where God is going to use us most and build our faith most. So if you are in a place of wilderness or in a desert right now, don't think God's not there, because actually it might be exactly where God wants you to be. And you know, there's loads of stories in the Bible where there's people that are in the wilderness. Even Jesus himself went through the wilderness, which is a bit of encouragement to us all. But when I think of being a Bible character being in the wilderness, I think of Moses, because he was in there for so long, for 40 years. I mean, it's good to read in hindsight, but when you're in it, I suppose it wouldn't have been that great. So obviously, if you don't know the story, God comes to Moses after 40 years of being in the desert and tells him that he's going to bring all the people out of Egypt, which is massive in itself. So God says this to Moses, that he's going to deliver the people from Egypt, and Moses comes up with all these excuses like, I'm not good enough, I can't speak, what if people don't believe me, what if people don't listen? And what I find is the most powerful thing, well, personally, is that when God says, Moses is saying all that about himself, and God says, the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" And I think that is such a powerful thing to say, because through Jesus, on the second half of the Bible, in the New Testament, God's given us so many things in our hands already. He's given us prayer, which obviously is the main reason why we're doing these 21 days, that in our hand God's given us such an incredible gift of prayer. And I think if we don't use that, then we're silly, because it's right there for us to access every day because of Jesus and what he did for us. And I think if you are in a place of dry land and wilderness or bad circumstance, look what's in your hand, look what God's given you. He's given you prayer, and I think it's really important that we use that, that we earnestly use that. I'll come to that in a minute, but that we never also become familiar with that too, that, you know, it's easy for us just to say a nice prayer to God and carry on. But actually this is such a powerful gift that we have access to, such a powerful gift that can change lives. And I think if we forget that and become familiar with that, or we lose sight of that because of circumstance, because of wilderness, then that's upsetting, because God's given us so much in our hands already. And in the second half of the first verse it says, "You got it by God, earnestly I seek you." And I think we've got to be a group of people that earnestly seek God, that earnestly pray for stuff, that earnestly use what God's given us in our hand to seek him more and to reach the lost. And the definition of earnestly is with sincere and intense conviction, seriously. That's what it says. With sincere and intense conviction, seriously. And first, I think before we earnestly pray, we've got to know our conviction. We've got to know why we do what we do. We've got to know what we're praying for. And ultimately, we've got to know that deep conviction inside is what's going to drive us to do what we do today. We've got to know the why behind the what, or else it's just surface prayers, it's just lukewarm prayers. We've got to go deep with our prayers. We've got to earnestly seek out God. And I think to do that from a place of wilderness, to do that from a place of dry land, is actually so powerful, because you're not just doing it when things are easy, you're not just doing it when everyone around you is doing it, you're doing it because actually you know why we're doing what we're doing. Ultimately that's to get Jesus known and to reach the lost, isn't it? And I think within these 21 days it's such a powerful platform to pray for people. But I think even after 21 days, you know, when it is just you and it's just your everyday life again, are you still going to earnestly seek God? And that will be my challenge to me as well, my challenge to you, that sometimes when you've not got the buzz of 21 days and you've not got a devotional every day, are you going to be earnestly still seeking God to find out more about who he is, even when you're in a place of dry land? You know, it says in Daniel that Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego said they had an even if spirit, that even if God didn't deliver them from the fiery furnace, they were still going to worship him anyway. And I think we should have that even if spirit with the prayer that's in our hand. We should say, even if God doesn't come through in this situation, that I'm still going to earnestly seek him anyway. And I think that's so powerful. So practically today, what I want you to do is earnestly pray for someone that you want to see become a Christian over this next year. So I want you to get a piece of paper and write the name down, and personally, you and God, pray for this person earnestly, whether that means getting down on your knees, whether that's every time you get in your car just praying over them. And you know, earnestly praying for someone isn't easy, it's not just a 2-second thing. Pray for it like it's the only thing on the earth you can pray for. You know, when I went shopping on Boxing Day, I don't know why I did it because it was so busy, but people were moving, flipping heaven and earth to get that discount on those trainers. And if people are doing that to go shopping, how much more should we be doing that for our friends, for our family, earnestly praying for them to see them saved. And you know, as we do this 21 days together, I really, really believe that God's going to do something amazing, that God is going to show up because of our earnest prayer, because of our earnestness in our faith to get to know God more. And as we stand together as a church and do this together, that God's going to do some really incredible things. So I hope you've got something from today. I hope that you practically write someone down that you're going to be praying for over these next few months. And I really pray as a church that we're willing to do whatever it takes, that we're willing to earnestly pray to see God come through. So yeah, have a brilliant day and we'll see you in church on Sunday.